Hello over there, and welcome to another module of the Appmint tutorial series. In this module, we are going to be taking a look at testing, SEO, and publishing when it comes to your website. So previously, in the previous module, we've talked about Appmint web page editor that allows you to create your website from scratch and even using the preset that is made by Appmint. So in this module, we are going to be taking a look at testing, SEO, and publishing your website. So this module, the purpose of it is to equip you learners with essential testing, SEO optimization, and publishing strategies to ensure that your Appmint built website are fully functional, search engine friendly, and ready for deployment. So for the module, the outcome of this module is that you should, one, understand the importance of testing website for functionality and performance. Then two, you should be able to apply SEO best practices so as to improve your search visibility. Then three, you should optimize your website speed and mobile responsiveness. Then finally, you should be able to successfully publish and deploy your website. So without much further ado, let's get started. All right, so in this part, we are going to be taking a look at website testing and debugging. So in this particular section, we are going to be learning how to do website testing and debugging. And the purpose of this is to ensure that your website function correctly by testing your website for usability, responsiveness, and bug detection. So now let's get started. The agenda of this is to first learn the overview of website testing. Then secondly, the importance of usability and responsiveness. And thirdly, we are going to be learning the types of website testing. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about is the functional testing. So what does functional testing mean? So functional testing is when you have a website. So it is very important that you test out your website that everything is working as it is meant to be. So this includes and not limited to verifying your forms. So if you have a form, be it a registration form, another form, or a contact forms, so you should ensure that each of the inputs and the buttons are working as they are meant to be. You can also ensure that when they enter their email address, such as if you have an email feed, there should be strictly checking such that if the email is not correct, the form is not going to be submitted. So secondly, you should also check your buttons, whether it is a button on your website or a button on your form or another part of the website, that it is working as it is meant to be. So for instance, you might have a button that says about us, and you have to also ensure that when a user click on that button, it should take them to the about us page and not another page. And finally, when it comes to functional testing, you should also ensure that your navigation links, they are working correctly. There may be some cases whereby you are going to put your navigation link, but you might not be linking them correctly, such that when a user click on the link, it's not taking them to any part where it's meant to take them to be. So it is always recommended that you check that your navigation links is working correctly. Now, when you also come to functional testing, you should also test interactive components on your website. So this includes search bars. If you have a search bars on your website for people to search for information quickly, you should also test the interactive and try to manually search for items if it's going to work. If it works, then great, you're good to go. And if it doesn't, then you know there is still work to do. Another interactive component that you can also check out is the shopping cart for e-commerce website. So this is actually very crucial as it can actually affect the sales of an e-commerce website. So for shopping cart, try to manually check if user can easily find out a product and they can easily add the product to cart and also make payment for that particular product that they are trying to make orders for. So if there is any breaking part in this process of from them to access the product to completing the order of the product and to making the payment, if there is any part that needs issue that needs fixing, then try to also fix that part as well. Now, the next part that we're going to talk about is cross-browser testing. So what does cross-browser testing mean? So this simply means that you should ensure that your website displays correctly on various browsers. So the thing is, when your website is published on the internet, you are going to be having a lot of people visiting your website using different devices and even different browsers. while there are a lot of browsers that user can use to access the internet, the most popular ones are number one, Chrome, which is made by Google. Then we also have Firefox, and there is also Safari from Apple. Then there is also Edge for Microsoft. So then these browsers, it is very important that you test your website for cross-browser testing. That is, if your website is working perfectly for someone that is using Chrome, then someone using Firefox or Safari or Edge should also be able to access your website. So you can do this using different tools online to check if your website is actually working fine for cross-browser testing. After you are done with the cross-browser testing, then comes the mobile responsiveness testing. So what does mobile responsiveness testing mean? This simply means that you should check the layout and functionality of your website on different screen sizes. If you recall earlier, we mentioned about cross-browser testing, whereby you can have users using different browsers to access your website. Also, you can as well have the users using different devices to access your website. So one of the devices that you can use to access your website is called desktop. So for mobile responsiveness testing, it's broken down into majorly three parts. You have the desktop, you have the tablet, and you have the mobile. So for desktop, they are usually large screens. So if you check your website is actually working fine on desktop. Then for tablets, you should also ensure that your website also is responsiveness on tablet. That is, users do not need to swipe left or right before they can see the rest of your content, as your website should be able to adapt to this screen size. Finally, your website should also be able to work perfectly on mobile, as a lot of users actually use their mobile to access the internet. So it is very, very important to ensure that your website adapts easily and responsively on each of these devices. When you're done with the mobile responsiveness testing, then comes the performance testing. So the performance testing is to check how your website is actually faring when it comes to performance. So you can use tools like Google PageSpeed Insights to analyze load times. So this simply means that you can use tools such as Google PageSpeed Insights to check how fast your website loads. So in this case, I'm going to show you a demo of how it works. So to access Google PageSpeed Insight, all you have to do is go to pagespeed.web.dev. And when you get to pagespeed.web.dev, it's going to show you this page. So all you have to do is to enter your web page URL. So in this case, I'm just going to enter the post Appmint website.appmint.app and then click on analyze. So when you click on analyze, it's going to start analyzing your website to see how well it is faring when it comes to our performance. So I'm just going to wait for a while for the Google PageSpeed Web Dev to analyze my website. So now the analysis is being run, and it's showing the date that report for May 19. This is the particular date I'm running the test. So it's still showing the data. All right, now we have our result. So the result says for SEO, my website scored 92%. For best practices, 96%. For accessibility, we have 81. For performance, we have 70. And also, you'll be able to see further details on the performance of your website, such as the first content through FCP, and you'll also be able to see some of the things that's making your website to lag behind. So you can follow all of these diagnostics that is provided by PageSpeed Web Dev to actually optimize your website for more better performance. So this is for mobile, and for desktop, if I click on it, this is the score of for desktop as well. So there are different tools that you can use to check the performance of your website, but the Google PageSpeed Web Dev is one of the most reliable form of tools that you can use for the performance testing. Now, when you are done using tools like Google PageSpeed Insights, then you should identify performance bottlenecks, such as what I show you in the Google PageSpeed Insight on some of the things that is causing your website to lag behind. So you should identify performance bottlenecks, that is some of the things that is preventing your website to actually perform very well, and then fix some of these issues. So, and when you're done with the performance testing, the next part is the security testing. Every website is actually prone to attack, but you can mitigate and reduce this attack by putting some security in place on your websites. So the first one is you verify SSL certificate. So SSL certificates are simply a layer of security that's adds layer to a kind of a layer of security to the connection between your website server and your client, that is your website editor accessing your website. So you should always ensure that your website is using an SSL certificate, and you should verify that the SSL certificate is actually quite good and trusted. Then the second one is you check your form validation. So there are some cases whereby an attacker might actually use the form to inject a virus on your website. So when you check form validation, such as ensuring that a user cannot inject a code on their using your form, such as if they are filling their email address, they have to put the @ they have to put the .com or anything that makes an email to be valid in the email address feed. Also, you can also put something in place such as the Google reCAPTCHA or the Cloudflare toolsite that performs security check before a form is being submitted. All of this help add a layer of security to your website. Then the third one is to access user authentication security. If your website is going to be requiring user to sign up, to log in, to make order, and all of these things, then you should also always ensure that your user authentication security is quite good, so as to prevent hijacker from accessing your website backdoor. So the website testing is essential for functionality, usability, and security. So secondly, various testing types address specific aspects of website performance. So it is always ensured that you try to perform the website security test, the performance test, the usability test, the functionality test, and all other necessary tests that is required of your website. And the best practices in website testing is you ensure thorough testing across all devices and browsers. So all devices to check that your website is actually quite responsive, and cross-browser testing to ensure that your website works across all the browsers. Two, you should also regularly update testing protocols to adapt to new technologies. And three, you should prioritize user experience in all testing phases. That is, aside from using the automatic tools to check your website testing, you should also prioritize using user experience in all testing phase. You can do manual testing to ensure that your website is working fine. So this is where we're going to stop for the website testing and debug, and I'm going to be seeing you in the next section. Until then, bye.